Hey guys, how's it going?
Pretty good.
Doing awesome.
I'm
Good.
excited to run it.
All right, great. Well, welcome to AI Amateurs episode 9. Link at the top is for watching on YouTube. And Michelle, are you hearing it on YouTube as well? How's the audio?
I don't see the stream as started on my end. Let me double check.
Okay. Interesting.
No, my bad. Device thing. It works on a different network.
Okay, great. All right, so the link is at the top for YouTube. Please give it a like if you haven't already. Robert, what do you want to start with, man? We have a few things to talk about.
I don't know. I'm playing with OpenAI's voice features this afternoon, which are pretty cool.
Yeah, let's talk about that. So OpenAI just introduced advanced voice mode. I don't quite see much of a difference from the last version. What do you think?
It's a little faster latency and it does a few new things. It's easier to talk with. It's fun to talk with, and it teaches you. I use it to teach my kids on the way to school. Hey, ChatGPT, give us a little Spanish lesson. Kind of thing.
Michelle, have you been using the advanced voice mode on ChatGPT?
Yes, most of the super long form conversation is when I'm just like drafting my fiction book ideas. I was disappointed that you really have to start a new chat, and then if you resume a chat, it reverts to the old version that you really gotta talk one way, wait, it responds with the little clicks like before. It's not the fluid you can interrupt each other type of voice conversation, but it's really nice, and it's absolutely hilarious if you ask it to do a Asian accents, or but I found that was the funniest one, and I was surprised at how accurate it can make a French accent or French Canadian accent. And the first night, it almost felt like the French Canadian accent was like not good, and then later the same week, the French Canadian accent got like so much better, like visibly, like noticeably better. So I'm like, how fast are they improving and retraining this thing regarding how like it does the accents? I don't know if I was just unlucky or if it actually got better within the same, like after a few days.
Have you tried it since then? Has it consistently been really, really good?
It was just like a solid mid. All right. Like it sounded like a French person from France that tries to imitate a French Canadian. And then literally the next evening, I show it to my girlfriend, and it was like above eight, and then kept getting slightly better. It's more difficult to say. So I mean, I noticed an improvement, but then it's above 8 on 10, so it's difficult to tell if it's getting incrementally better.
Yeah. This is really funny because Michelle is on live chat, and as he's talking, I'm responding to him on live chat. And then as I'm talking, he's responding to me on the live chat. So we have two simultaneous conversation going on at the same time, which is pretty amazing. Um, although we could just talk about here, but anyway. Oh, we have Chris on the board. Yeah, I mean, I've been using advanced mode as well. Uzi, do you have to have, Michelle, do you have to have the paid version for the advanced voice mode?
Yes, finally a thing you have to pay for, uh, because
Yeah,
I felt like I was paying for nothing.
yeah. I mean, honestly, it's a no-brainer. Like how good this thing is just really mind-blowing to me. And I've been very happy, and I use it way more often now. Now that I'm paying for it, because I used to get kind of limited on, when I wasn't paying for it on the free version. I was limited, so I couldn't really explore what I can use it for. But since I'm paying for it now, it's kind of, I mean, for my purposes, unlimited. I know there's a limit, but I haven't reached it yet. I use it dozens of times a day, and for various things. I'm like finding new things to use ChatGPT or other, AI agents for. But there are use cases that I use ChatGPT for. I just can't use Grok for. Like for example, I'm on a, um, I'm on a, let's say I go to a supermarket and I'm looking at the aisle of packaged chicken cutlets, and instead of like what I used to do is kind of compare nutritional information on the back one by one and select one that I think is better, and I wouldn't worry about that tiny ingredient list. I would just look at kind of cholesterol, the sodium, the calories, the protein content, that table, and then call it a day. But now what I can do instead is I can stand a couple steps back and I can take a picture of the entire aisle of that section, like Purdue chicken with like 12 different types, and say, which one's healthier for me? And don't say anything about the picture. Just literally the picture and say which one's healthier for me. And then it just gives me a list. It reads every single version, and then it describes why that one's healthy or it's not healthy. And then I can say, score it out of 100. And it just scores like 95. This one's 95. This one's 90. This one's 85 because of this and that. And then I can say, and if I want more information, flip the product over, and just kind of take a picture of the back and say, do you see any ingredient in here that is harmful for me? And it does a really incredible job. Like it's basically like it's not only not like it's not only doing it quicker than I would, but I don't know some of the ingredients in that small fine print. And so looking at every single ingredient one by one and remembering what they mean, if they're harmful for you, etc. I can just ask ChatGPT with one picture, and it just does a great job. Michelle says Grok image recognition is coming on YouTube live chat. Michelle, would you like to tell us more about that?
Yeah, somebody with the actual affiliate badge of XAI was retweeting somebody else that doesn't have the badge, but was posting screenshots of them uploading pictures to Grok. And this XAI employee was also asking for suggestions. I can find the post and post it in the comments as well. Asking X users, us, what would they use Grok image recognition for? So that's definitely signs that that is what they're working on right now.
Yeah, I mean, they're welcome to come to this space, and we can tell them real life examples of what I use it for. And I know Uzi is a big Grok user. Uzi, do you also use ChatGPT or a paid version?
I now have downloaded it in a business context, but I've only used it infrequently. It has done some great things, like making a CSV file for me, which you couldn't do in Excel, or it would be a lot of manual labor otherwise.
Yeah. I mean, the other use case I had, and Michelle, go ahead.
I mean, I turned the world upside down today and challenged Grok to come up with PowerShell scripts about like managing an Active Directory, types of stuff I usually do with ChatGPT. But like the question I had was like the information I would have to put in was not sensitive at all. So I was like, oh, let me challenge Grok. And then I A/B tested Grok's PowerShell script versus what ChatGPT typically gives me, and then I ask them to judge each other's script as well. And some simple stuff like somebody got hacked this weekend. They realized this morning, and I was just trying to automate the process of going through their entire system looking for suspicious activity in the last 48 hours. And that's usually a pretty tedious process, but I was able to get like valuable results under 30, 45 minutes. And it was fun to look at ChatGPT and Grok doing different approaches and doing the same mistakes on both sides as well. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So hopefully image recognition will come. per Michelle. Uzi.
Yeah, I wanted to mention per last week that voice to text is now in Grok too, so that's a good sign.
Okay. Robert, I'm sure you have paid version of ChatGPT. Do you use image recognition? Like, do you submit pictures of it, and if to the extent
Uh,
that you can share, what do you use it for?
all over the world. Here's some examples. I went to the Smithsonian in Washington, D.C., and walked around there and taking pictures and talking to ChatGPT, and it knew everything that I took a picture of. I was in Prague. I took a picture of a logo on a menu in a restaurant, and it told me what to eat at that restaurant. It didn't see anything else, just already knew that the menu. And that's true of most menus in the world because they're all online, or a lot of them are online. So the models ingested that stuff, or their agents did, brought it to them. But it's crazy. It recognizes food, it recognizes buildings, it recognizes streets you're in often. Like if you're in a famous place, it told me about the church in Sitges, Spain, just from a picture. It translates things from pictures. So if you aim it at a sign that you can't read, ask it to translate it to your language, it will. On and on.
Yeah, exactly. And then the other thing, I'll go to Chris in just 1 second. But the other thing, and if you're in the audience and you do use either Grok or ChatGPT or Gemini, paid version, free version, really please come up to the speaker board and share with us, what do you use it for? Maybe you have a use case that we haven't thought about. It's very important that we share these best practices. Like if I ask it this way, it's better. The result is better. I use it for that purpose. We have to really build this full understanding, better understanding. I don't think we're ever going to be able to fully understand this thing. But
No, my psychiatrist uses ChatGPT to listen to our therapy sessions, and it writes 7 different kinds of highly detailed scientific notes. She and an entrepreneur built the system on top of ChatGPT. So there's a lot you can do with ChatGPT.
yeah. What was I going to say? Man, I'm so tired. The other, Chris, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I've definitely used both here significantly. It's one of I've been trying to push it to its kind of like boundaries here, and I constantly bring this topic up of like it essentially not being able to complete certain actions. It's essentially all just within that session. So you really, the quality is incredible. The speed is incredible. It literally has gotten to the point, assuming they can retain consistency and latency on this stuff, which it seems like they are, the latency between conversations of you having a conversation is effectively just like speaking to an absolute expert that immediately responds. They need to do a little bit of work in respect to interrupting. It's significantly better than before. The other thing, I guess, for people to know is just that 4.0 had the ability for you to communicate with it, and it could go out on the web and retain or retrieve information when you're speaking or communicating with it. That capability is currently excluded from this system, and it's very interesting the way that they actually do it. Like if you want to enter into that type of conversation where it should go out and research, you're essentially stuck in the old model. And then you'd have to like start a new chat, meaning you lose the context of the previous conversation as it can't retrieve back.
Right.
It does
Right.
have a memory capability though, meaning you do have the ability of telling it, can you please add this to like the memory bank type of thing. But that is a very limited feature at the moment.
Yeah, these are extremely short-term concerns. Like obviously they're going to work in the memory update feature. They're going to work in, like, you're going to be able to go back to previous chats and remember. Before I go to Michelle, I remember what I was going to say. The other thing about the chicken cutlets example I was giving earlier, is that it recognized the conversation we had before a previous day, about a workout schedule and said, this item would actually be better for what you're trying to do with the workout schedule. And that's something that, let's say your trainer, let's say you have a trainer and a dietitian. Unless they're talking to each other, you wouldn't get that kind of synergy. But with one AI agent, since it's both an expert in diets and also workouts, you can get that kind of synergy that's just not possible with a team of experts. Michelle?
Yeah, because I was noticing that when you use the live voice, it triggers itself because I go and read the transcript. It triggers the memory updated feature a lot more than it usually does on other types of conversation. But I read the release notes because RTFM is my thing, and they said that this remembers across conversations. So I would be curious if you would go double check your memories when you go in ChatGPT's settings, and some personalization submenu has like a list of the memories it has about you. If your workout thing is in your memory, or was it just like it remembers across conversations in a
No, it's in
other
the
type
memory.
of thing?
It's in the
Okay.
memory. Yeah.
Just also a note on that. I've noticed that like I ran into a bunch of problems here because I was utilizing memory previously on the Pass 4.0 model. Once I cleared it out, right, and just effectively started from scratch, I seem to get far better performance in respect to it being able to achieve what I wanted it to do.
There is a bit of cleaning that's good practice to do in your memory, and I don't think they implemented some sort of automated clutter removing
Yeah, garbage
already.
collection.
So,
Yeah,
yeah.
I agree. And you can't tell, as far as I know, you can't tell it like, could you go into my memory and clean that up? It doesn't, like, you can get it to retrieve things, but it doesn't seem to be able to really fully reorganize that thing properly.
Michelle, what would be your recommendation for going back through the memory and cleaning up? Like, what should I be looking out for?
Well, definitely, if you were questioning yourself about a health subject and it was for somebody else, but like it misunderstood the question about being about you, and you're like, no, I was just asking for a friend, or that kind of stuff, that it could, especially stuff that's wrong. So I was querying it in a context that it assumed it was about me, and I removed that. And if it's a very a recent memory in the last few weeks, I'll leave it there because it will be surprisingly practical, like your chicken story. But as I scroll down, and there's like 4 or 5 memories about me looking up car stuff, and I mean, we bought the car, it's done. I'm not car shopping anymore. I'm not looking into having an AI that's gonna be aware of the context that I'm looking for a car, because I'm not looking for a car anymore. We bought it, it's done.
Oh, okay, the first example you gave, which is you were asking a question, it was really about a friend. I had that problem too. My friend was trying to train her dog, and I asked it first as if it's my dog, and then a couple of days later, I recognized it's in memories, and I deleted it. And now, what I say is, my friend is trying to, and it is able to distinguish between that, so it doesn't update my memory. It may update it and say something like, Yaman's friend is looking to train, but that's okay. Like, that's not a big deal, right? But your second example, which is you were looking for a car, and now you're not looking for a car, and you delete that memory. What's the harm of leaving it there? Is there maximum capacity or something?
There is no maximum capacity, and then somebody aggressively left over 500 memories there. And it's just that as much as you can give a lot of context to an AI and have better results, it's not a linear curve. At some point, you get diminishing result as you give it too much context, and it's trying to cram too much stuff. The best example of this problem is when you're playing around with image creation. Try and put 4 or 5 things into an image, no problem. Give it more than 10, 12 elements to include in the image, and depending on the tool you're using, it's not going to be able to keep up. So you hit the limit much earlier with image generation, so you can experience and understand that, like, as you add more and more things and requirements to produce your results, you get this like confusing, not high quality result because you gave it too much stuff.
Yeah, I did experience that with Grok image generation before when I was trying to create these thumbnails. I was like, add this to, add that to, and it just at some point just gave up. And I understand maybe it was too many detailed stuff, but let's say, for example, on ChatGPT, I mean, at some point, these AI agents will come to a point where, like, if you and I are having a conversation, and let's say that something, you remember some, like, some detail about me that's completely irrelevant to the topic at hand, you know how to ignore that detail. Don't you think the ChatGPT or AI agents will also be able to ignore irrelevant information?
Yeah, you could build some sort of layer, and then out of like the 5,000 memories it has about you, it would do like some sort of filter pass, and then all right, he's talking about shopping for a bicycle, and then it does a filter pass on the 5,000 memories, keeps a few hundreds of them that seems loosely relevant, and work with that. But that has to be built. It's not something I'm aware is live right now, but it's a great idea.
Okay, Dr. Spirituality.
Hey, hello, how are you? Yeah, it's interesting. I was just having this today. I directed ChatGPT to convert all of the directives I had. So I talked about creating neural symbolic integration with a bunch of other stuff because I was uploading all these scholarly PDF files to try to tweak it, to tweak the systems that I created. And then I recently told them to write them into mathematical equations, and which was really interesting. But I see that by clearing everything out and starting fresh, because in the beginning I was asking about Saturn and stuff that was just, I was just trying to figure out what it could do. And I need to flush all that stuff down the drain because now I have a better understanding of what I want to achieve with it. And I'm kind of going, things organically happen, but by tweaking it with with systems for specific outcomes, and then going further and saying, I want a mathematical equation with this, and then sharing it with Grok and Claude and others, and say, challenge this, make sure that it's not what it says it is. You can really drill down on these things. It's pretty exciting. Thank you.
Thank you, Uzi.
Well, I was curious about, I guess it was understanding within the AI. I don't know. Well, maybe Michelle can explain, how does the LLM understand the words that you're giving it?
Oh, well, we're back to 101, but it picks the words and chop them into tokens. So it's close to like chopping it down in syllables, but it's like each syllables or token has a meaning, and it built this graph of understanding. Like you would have a grapevine, and then all of these tokens are related to each other in this particular way, and then when you put these 3 tokens together, it acts as a verb, and it modifies the tokens that are linked before it. Like you would understand how syntax work in a sentence, it does so through working out as the previous tokens and these tokens in the middle kind of multiplied or impacted the other ones that were further down in the sentence, that kind of stuff. But it times like 1,000, and it does so in some sort of black box that we left it train on itself. And now we put
Michelle got
stuff
a call.
in and
Uzi, can you
pull
hear her?
stuff out.
Yes.
Okay, I'll be right back.
But it's garbage in, content out. It trained on itself so much now that um, we don't really understand what's happening in the middle.
So would it be fair to say there's like it doesn't truly understand the meaning of the word and understands the arrangement of the tokens?
At first, it came out like you gotta go and play with GPT-2 and see how it blindly puts the next word after the other because it's the most probable one. But it didn't do this like complex understanding of the relationship between all of those tokens at a deeper level. So it was just like a clever parrot and trying to put the most probable word and syllable next. And it was surprisingly scary good. But as the models are getting larger and larger, I think it has some sort of meta understanding of the relationship between everything else. And I think it's able to come up with stuff that looks sentient or good or humans are so good at anthropomorphizing stuff. I mean, we give human qualities to our cats and dogs, and they can barely bark and look at us and do simple tricks. But this thing can literally talk with you. It's difficult for us not to give it human properties, but I'm not sure it's actually sentient or conscious.
Yeah. I mean, that's the other thing I was going to say, that there was a point this past weekend when I was doing research about macroeconomics. And, there's sometimes I see a word, I don't know what it means. And I found myself having to open up ChatGPT advanced voice mode so often that I was like, why don't you just freaking stay open? So I just left it open there. And as I'm reading and doing numbers and stuff, I was able to have a conversation with it in the meantime. I was like, this is freaking crazy. This is unreal. Like, this already is happening. And it's September 2024 that I want this thing open, at all times. Like, that was a huge milestone.
Another one that is fun just for anybody to just test if you have the advanced voice mode is go and on one computer or on one system, go and like start up Audible, have it read you or narrate a book, and literally just have ChatGPT open and let it listen, and then pause the audiobook and then ask questions like during that process, and then tell it, okay, I'm going to continue with the audiobook. So then the conversation continues. It is a fascinating experience, and you can pre-prompt it, telling it about the book, and then like what type of relationship you essentially want to have with the chatbot during this is happening. It's a really great way of ingesting a lot of information and gaining a lot of knowledge that otherwise would take us, or at least it took me, a long period of time to go and understand. You could technically have this happening, in many situations that we deal with on a daily basis.
Yeah. I'm going to ask a question to Chris in a second, but before that, if you're listening to this on X, please go to the top of your screens and click the YouTube button and like the video. This pushes it out to new viewers, grows the channel, and ad revenue from YouTube helps support this space on X so that it can stay free and open for everybody. So if you could just take 2 seconds to do that for free, I would really appreciate that. Thank you very much, everybody. Chris, you mentioned earlier in our conversation that they have some work to do with interrupting. It's incredibly sensitive. Like the story I just told, when I was I was working doing some research on macroeconomics, I want to open. Well, I couldn't keep it open because I was at a coffee shop and it would pick up on every single sound. It would start talking. I was like, no, like I need to just kind of like wait there, but it didn't work. So I had to turn it off. Is there anything I can do, Chris or Michelle or anybody else, anything I can do to kind of say, man, you know what would be really cool if I could just say something like a prompt word, which then actually makes it like "Hey Siri," something along those lines.
I'll tell you what I did. My workaround for it, and I have your exact frustration as well. I did a crazy workaround for it. I got so frustrated with exactly what you're describing that I purchased for myself a DJI Mic 2. This is a device that has a receiver and two transmitters, right? So I got the one with two transmitters, and I had one of them. You can insert a line in to it. So this is a total crazy workaround, but it essentially allowed me to like get the audio input from the what was happening with like echo cancellation for the other device that is like on my shirt that I'm speaking with. So that problem, exactly the one you're describing, was resolved. Also, I should point out this interruption or that ability, if you're in a quiet environment, it is significantly better than the previous version, the 4.0.1. It like begins speaking, and then right when you start talking, it will continue. It functions much better. It's just not perfect yet, but it feels like we are really, really close. Every time I look at these type of systems, I think to myself, okay, well, the capability, let's say, is voice communication. And there is a point at which that form of communication is indistinguishable from like real life. And I'm just referring to the speed of answering, like your ability to interrupt or like redirect the conversation in real time, just like you're talking to a human. And the fact that we're almost there is almost like a checkbox to one huge, for me, it's unlock.
Yeah, it's truly wild. Michelle Danuzzi.
I mean, we talked about prompt engineering before, and you can prompt engineer the voice interaction as well, but not so much on the core mechanics of how it works. I mean, for your scenario, without going the whole like double mic noise cancellation thing, you could just use the mute that's at the bottom left of the screen when you're not prompting it, and you would tap and it unmutes you, and it's going to be listening to you, and then you mute it back again. That's the more simple answer to it. But when you do good prompt engineering, you would like set your expectations of what you do, and if you're tired of telling it what to do, go swap different versions of your custom instructions. When I'm gonna be doing my book, I copy paste out and store somewhere in my notes the custom instructions I use for work, and I put a set of custom instructions that expects me to be drafting a book, and it also sets some rules of engagement and like stuff about staying in character. So I did kind of role play with my characters where I talked about how this person's supposed to be, and then all right, I'll pretend to be character A, and then you'll pretend to be character B, and then I have this all like conversation where they wrote half the book, and I used part of the conversation for to write that chapter.
Interesting, thank you. And on YouTube live chat, before I go to Uzi, Matt Senko says, you should be able to get it to remember to only respond to it when you say its name. It's akin to setting an alias command. Okay. Uzi?
I feel like this conversation needs the introduction of Notebook LM. It's the Google, I guess, version of a podcast. You'll put a research paper or whatever in, and you'll have two podcast hosts sort of break it down for you. So maybe that's what books are in the future, or a hard passage is in the future for you, so that you can just have a dialectic.
Or you could take a picture of the page in a machine learning book that you don't understand and ask it to explain it to you. And it does.
Yeah, I do it all the time. I do stuff like that all the time. Chris, then Michelle.
Yeah, just I'm assuming this is something that is effectively this kind of next stage of this entire thing, and that is once they open up this API for you to be able to do like the essentially just voice in, voice out capability from an API perspective. like right now we are so limited in respect of like what, like, if we're listening to a YouTube video on our phone, it won't be capable of listening to that same information. So it's kind of like locked into that Apple ecosystem, or the restrictions of that web audio API, or whatever they're using there. But I believe that you know my I'm wondering when Grok is going to basically have a voice. I'm in my head, if they're starting with images and they're able to do multimodality on that aspect, I would assume that audio is in that same breath.
Michelle.
I mean, for avid listeners of AI Amateurs, Notebook LM was not last week's news, but 2 weeks ago. I was telling people they're rolling it out. It's amazing. I've been using it a lot, and now I can use it fully on a normal person, publicly available account. And then last week, I told again everyone, "Hey, this is like how I read machine learning AI papers." And now, because it's on TikTok, of course, now everybody's aware. But it went kind of viral on social media this week, because like normal folks realized, like, wow, this thing is really awesome. And the model they use to have the two people talking, I mean, we've been talking for almost 40 minutes about ChatGPT's voice feature, and yeah, the voice is great, but it sounds robotic. Maybe at 1 or 2 on 10, I would say it's a solid 8 or 9 on 10. But this Notebook LM feature sounds 10 on 10 perfect, like a podcast, like the flow of the syllables. Nothing, absolutely nothing about this is robotic. And it shows that if you spend a little bit more compute, you can have a voice that's basically perfect.
Can you tell us a little bit more about Notebook LLM and what you use it for exactly?
Notebook LM is website on Google. So just Google it, and you can put up to 5 documents, and you would have the ability to chat with AI about those documents. Similarly to if other people are
But how is
used
that?
to.
How is that different from um, uploading 5 PDFs to ChatGPT and asking questions about it?
Nothing different so far. But it's when you press this magical button that says create an I forgot how they call it, some sort of AI summary. Like, it's a create a podcast button, but they labeled it something else. And it just says hold on, and it loads for a long time, depending if you gave it lots of stuff. But at some point it says it's ready, and you hit play, and you have this podcast with two people, a guy and a girl, talking like flawlessly, super chill and relaxed, and in plain English through every single bullet point. And they're breaking it down in plain English of what you uploaded. It's the quality of the audio output that comes out of this that's amazing.
I mean, yeah. What do you mean by that?
It's static. It does one version, and you can talk with them. But between each other, they interrupt each other in a very natural way, and I think it's better than if they had like a single person reading something to you, like an audiobook. I would fall asleep. But if it's because one person's going to ask a question, the other person's going to answer, the other person goes like, "Oh, I get it now." So that it's the interaction they have between these two characters that makes it very engaging.
I don't know.
Yeah, man, it made Tesla 10Q kind of interesting to listen to.
Okay, but yeah, I don't know. I don't really see this as. I mean, unless if I'm missing something, I'm gonna try it. And actually, now that you guys are talking about it, I've seen a couple of examples of it on X. People post about it too. Um, but I don't. I don't. It's just can you Chris? You gotta stop interrupting. We have a hand on the board as well. Um, I just it sounds more gimmicky to me than anything else. Like I don't know if this is going to actually replace. Like, am I going to start using Notebook LLM instead of, let's say, uploading a document to ChatGPT and saying summarize this for me? I don't know. It sounds like more gimmicky than, and it's going to take time. You have to listen to these people. Yeah, I don't know. Like, okay, you know what would make a really big difference if, let's say, for example, you built a relationship with those two people that are talking about the book or the PDF or whatever, and they know your preferences over time and they can tailor it to you. Maybe they speak every time you ask it to them, they speak at a certain speed. Maybe they speak at a vocabulary level that fits you the best. They can adopt your sense of humor, um, and you would enjoy that more than summarizing a document using a chatbot. Maybe that could work. But then the question becomes, like, couldn't OpenAI or Grok do the same thing? Like, what do these people have that the other companies don't? Yeah, I don't know. Let's go to Uzi and then Andy.
I think Michelle, as usual, killed the description. The important thing is the dialectic or the dialogue between the two. Yes, I think on the other hand, for ChatGPT, you can interrupt it and ask questions, and that can be a more motivated or engaging conversation with the bot. But when you have two people that are correcting each other, where one gives the formal version and one with a reduced version in a voice, it is helpful. I do think you're right, though, that it is somewhat gimmicky. It's kind of whatever you're most interested in, you'll use. But I know Google and ChatGPT are not going away, so it's more user preference. I do think you're right, though, that if it learned more about the user, it would be helpful. But the user is not inputting any information except for the PDF file or the document they want to read.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Or if the AI agents could, like, maybe come up with a creative takeaway from the book that a chatbot wouldn't be able to do. Like that could be, and they kind of dove into that tangent. Then you can maybe create value that way. But if it's just basically reading you what a chatbot outputs as text, like I don't know, that's Andy.
Oh, hey, okay. I was on the other side of the kitchen. You know, this is so fascinating. I love you guys are having this conversation, but I think there's different kinds of levels where this can be extremely effective. For example, if you try to describe AI to my mom, she would much rather have a conversation, listen to a conversation because that's what she's used to hearing talk shows and TV shows and other things where there's dialogue. And she gets to listen in if one person is taking the position that I don't know anything. Can you explain this to me like an interviewer or a, late night talk show with whoever. If they take that position, people easily will that's why we love stories. People easily transpose themselves into the story and listen. So I think at a certain level of whatever, yeah, I know nothing about, let's say, knitting. And if I want to learn about knitting, I can have two people talk about it. I can learn what's happening by their interaction as opposed to me trying to ask it questions. I don't know enough to ask good questions. But on the other hand, if we're talking about, okay, so I've done project management for decades. I've done tons of interface and development, organizational change management, blah, 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 all that stuff. Somebody says, well, we're going to have a discussion about how to make a schedule. I can ask a very good question about, well, how do you track this? What about these things? How about this and this and this? I can get good information from an LLM or from some kind of interactive chatbot. But on stuff I know nothing, I think I'd rather listen. Sorry, the dogs are barking.
Okay, maybe it's a personal preference thing then. Michelle?
There's two aspects to point he raised where if somebody's new at AI, they're not going to be able to prompt engineer and like set up a good interaction, and they want something passive. But the point I was going to bring is that if you bring this to someone that has no idea that this was AI generated, they're gonna believe you that. But if that it's like, wow, this is a good podcast, and if you give a recording of even the like advanced voice from OpenAI at somebody that's really suspicious, they're gonna say like, "Was that AI?" Like they're gonna be suspicious. So it breaks this barrier, and if you're in a passive mood, yeah, a subject that you don't know a lot about, but you can really set this up and be listening in like we were used to before.
Uzi.
Over the weekend, I guess there was this somewhat viral video of the chatbots, quote unquote, having a meltdown, realizing they're AI. It turns out the prompt's author like asked them to act in that way, but people were reacting to it without that context, thinking, "Oh my God, they had a realization that they're AI," and it was somewhat spooky and existential. It might be This might be used for entertainment in some way in the future too. Whereas having the active conversation with ChatGPT might just be directly for learning a specific topic.
All right.
You know what? Hey,
I'm good.
can I say one more thing? If you could imagine creating a set of mentors, you could have Copernicus argue with Galileo, who's arguing with Steve Jobs and Andrew Carnegie. If you could feed it enough information, you could have very interesting discussions. You could listen to different points of view from different points in history too.
That's very interesting. All right. We have, man, one of the best things I like about this space is that we get new speakers that don't come to Tesla Live because they're just not interested in Tesla, but they're interested in AI. And I mean, I meet people in this space, AI amateur space, that I probably wouldn't have met in Tesla Live, which is amazing. I love it. If you also love it, please go up to the top of our screens and click the YouTube button, YouTube link, and like the video. Right now, we are at 23 likes. Our last episode got 62 likes, so let's see if we can beat that. Uzi,
Well, first on Tesla, if you like AI,
no
Tesla.
Tesla.
Okay, I'm just saying it's the largest AI experiment. Um, but with the Steve Jobs talking to Aristotle kind of thought, I don't think that will happen unless they use the training data of they like look at the works of Aristotle or Steve Jobs, and then you put them into conversation together with a prompt. But I don't think it'll just be able to give you Aristotle talking to Plato or whatever you want without the instruction or the field body text.
Robert, what do you think about this notebook LM? I mean, let's say, for example, you would rather listen to an audio book. Like, think of your favorite book, an audio book, or would you listen to a Notebook LM take on that audiobook or that book? How would you choose? Okay, so you're saying instead of, let's say, for example, I see what you're saying. Okay, so you can tailor it to a specific time length using Notebook LM. Okay.
And then say, okay, turn those into a persona, and it'll assign a name to each point of view because it knows, you know, who's sort of the expert at each point of view. And then 3, please join those personas into a group, like a debate club or a board of directors or a South by Southwest panel discussion or something like that, and then talk to the group. And it's really cool.
Got it. Okay. Any other comments? So this is owned by Google, right?
Yes, sir.
Robert, I'm going to get back to you in a second. I see Uzi's hand, and then we have Lumi. Uzi, go ahead.
Yeah, well, somewhat similar to Notebook LM, I want to point out the Meta Voice AI. They're training on like John Cena's and Keegan Michael Keel's voice. It does seem like pleasure seeking to me at first when you have the assumption that it'll be on a phone or an Instagram. I do think if you put the Oculus or not Oculus, the Meta Ray Bans into the conversation with Meta AI voice, you really have a killer combination, kind of like Jarvis and Iron Man, where you'll hear like John Cena while you're walking with your glasses, giving you directions or something, maybe.
Okay, Lumi.
Yeah, we've been testing this in Spaces. The personalities are kind of interesting purely because they're going to give you perspectives you wouldn't even imagine as well, which is something kind of ironic. NFK made this. It's going to be coming on to Spaces, and I'd love to bring it into one of these episodes so you can all experience AI within Spaces, because it's actually phenomenal. And then if you pair that with any kind of visual guide, we have this script to video, and it just makes basically like animations based on whatever the AI is talking about. So you almost have like a film in real time as well. So I don't know, this is one of my favorite new little things.
Okay, good. All right, Robert. So according to Hugging Face rankings, ChatGPT, OpenAI has pulled away a little bit from other players. The last time I checked, Grok was at the same level as Gemini. Do you think this trend will continue, or do you think we're going to see them kind of hopping over each other every now and then, or do you think one of them will just kind of pull away?
I assume because OpenAI has super users, early adopters who give a lot of feedback, that they're going to be hard to match short term. A lot of companies are trying, so there's a good chance that one of them has a breakthrough, but it's the data from all of us that matters. So who has users? X has a couple 100 million, Meta has 3 billion, right? And it's the users that are going to matter soon. Yeah. I don't yet have a good beat on, is Anthropic going to come out with a model next week that's going to be way better than OpenAI? I can't see that coming. And then at 1010's event with Tesla, we're going to see the robot, and we're going to see how fast their AI really is learning. We know it's learning fast because of the car, but I haven't seen the robot, and that's going to be where it all gets put together anyways into a product.
Yeah, I mean, look at this ranking. O1 Preview is number 1. ChatGPT 4o is number 2. Sorry, they share number 1 spot. And then O1 Mini is number 3. And then Gemini Grok, number 4. And then 6, 7 are also GPT 4o. And then 7 is Claude Gemini Grok.
And Sam Altman already said he has another O1 shipping model that'll come out soon. That's a lot better than the preview model. So he's
Yeah.
holding possibly a model until he has to show his hand. If Anthropic did have a model next week that was better than OpenAI's preview, I'm sure we're going to hear about OpenAI's new model, right?
Yeah, Michelle in live chat says, Michelle, can you repeat that?
Because we have O1 mini and O1 preview, but the O1 not preview is going to be lit.
Yeah, that's what Robert said too. That's what I read from Sam Altman as well. I think he said something. I forget the exact wording, but he said O1 preview is not good or something along those lines. And when I open up ChatGPT, it goes to GPT-4o. You know, it doesn't like I don't actually use O1 preview that much right now.
The API cost, which may be higher or it includes their profit margin, is about between 75 cents and $1 a question. So you would not default any app at a large scale to be $1 a question. Immediately you would default to 4.0, which is now extremely cheap.
I mean, I've asked same question to both models, and 4.0 gave me better answers. Frankly, maybe I'm not asking the type of question that O1 preview is good at.
Precisely.
Yeah, but I don't really work in those fields that much. Michelle, what's one or two things that O1 preview is clearly better than 4.0?
Well, see the challenge I had this morning, where all right, I have a cybersecurity assessment to do on this Active Directory, like the user management thing about a company. Write me a bunch of script. I will check, like, give me a shopping list of stuff I should check after a cybersecurity incident, and it builds the shopping list. It comes up with the script. It forgets about handling errors, and then I have errors that I don't know what to do with. But if you give it to O1, it's going to think about all of those. And I compared Grok PowerShell scripts against 4.0, but I tried it on O1 too late, kind of like after I dealt with the work stuff. I tried it over lunch, and at first try, it taught about error collection. It taught about like the format of the report it was gonna output at the end, was like much more human readable than the super long list. It taught about like, oh, give me the last logins, but then filter out the normal ones and just give me the unusual ones. It was like much higher quality and thinking outside the box, or thinking 2 steps ahead of what I asked.
Lumi, thank you, Michelle.
I just had a question for Robert. He was talking about this AI on which could do spreadsheets. What was that on? Because that was something very interesting.
Yeah, I just reshared. It's called Paradigm, and the founder is Anna Monaco. I'll put it on the top of the nest so you can see it.
I only asked.
Inflexity.
Oh,
Yeah,
I only
so
asked
it's
because
really
it's
interesting spreadsheet because if
yeah.
you have a list of customer names and customer addresses, and then you don't have anything else in your spreadsheet, you can prompt a column and say, hey, find me all the social media names for or addresses for these people, or something else. It's crazy.
Well, who wants to do pivot tables anyway, or any of that stuff? So imagine just having the best ever experts at your fingertips, and you just ask them all the questions like, do a standard deviation, all this data, or
Yeah.
find me the anomaly in this, or like fix this macro, whatever. It's going to do it much better than any person who spent 10 years learning Excel. And that's any analyst knows Excel is where you make your money, but it's also the most painful thing to learn in your life. So if you could
Yeah.
have AI do that, and I could see it replacing the whole industries with,
Yeah, it's early days. I mean, she admits it doesn't do everything Excel does, so you're still going to have to use Excel for charts, for instance, or macros, stuff like that. Or if you have a complex spreadsheet, you're still going to want to use Excel. But this brings major new capabilities to extend a spreadsheet and clean up data and stuff like that.
Uzi.
Yeah, with the Excel conversation, I think Robert's correct. It's not going to outright replace it. Um, it you're going to have Copilot owned by Microsoft integrated into Excel. But I think at this point, taking actions within, like the AI taking actions, is not something that we currently have. But instead, it's more you can get the formulas, and then you have to perform the action, take the output, and then put it back in the LLM to check for errors.
Unless you're asking it in real-time questions, just continuously, so it has the data.
Michelle?
Yeah, what you just said, you see, shipped last week, September 21, Copilot for Python in Excel. So for all of my spreadsheet nerds that also know Python, you can, if you don't know Python, you can let Copilot loose with Python on Excel. Advanced data analysis. I'll put in the comments the press release from the tech community Microsoft posts. But yeah, it's been a week now that Copilot can do Python in your spreadsheets, which is like interacting with it in natural language. And clever people that are really aware would tell you that Google Sheets was able to do that since end of August, and they refreshed it again this week at the same time that like Microsoft was coming out with Copilot on Python Excel. They have that feature on Sheets that
Okay.
Google Workspace has.
Finflexity, and then Angela.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that in terms of O1, I have seen that it performs very well in terms of when you have multiple variables, like maybe you're giving it a situation and then you're asking for a probable, outcome. So O1 preview actually takes into account many variables, but 4.0 forgets to take into account something that would skew the result in favor or against something.
Can you say that again? Or maybe somebody else. Michelle, you agree with that? I saw with the 100 emoji. Can
Yeah,
you
well,
explain that? Like on
well,
5?
in my example, where I was trying to do this cybersecurity assessment, like it overlooked doing handling errors and like outputting something that's human readable. But O1 immediately thought like, oh well, if this runs into an error, also includes like a plain text little print that comes up and tells me, well, this ran into an error for this or that reason, instead of just having the like complex error message. So it's, or if you're gathering data and it says, well, people that don't answer surveys don't typically are like on this left leaning or right leaning political spectrum. Well, the data might be skewed. And one of the thinking steps that O1 does will like mention like, yeah, we thought about this and that this data might be biased in some way. And it takes that into consideration.
Michelle, what % of your prompts go to O1 preview versus 4.0?
Less than 5%. Especially if I'm paying, like if it's my precious 50 or now it's 100 queries a week you can do. But if the job is paying, I didn't count. But they said to slow down because yeah, it's about 75 cents a question.
Interesting. Very interesting. And then Finflexity, what % of your prompts go to O1 preview versus 4.0?
All of it actually. I don't use it to the limit, so I just default to it. I mean, I'm wasting money anyways on I might as well spend it on O1 instead of 4.0.
Okay, maybe I'll try to find ways to use O1 preview then. If you guys are so positive on it, I was like, man, 4.0 is just it does everything I need. So
If you needed to reason or plan, then the for the new one is better. But most of the time the other one is faster and gives just as good an answer. I think that's why you noticed the other one's fine.
Yeah, Michelle?
I want to reiterate the trick I talked about a week or two ago, where you have a conversation with Faro, and if you're kind of disappointed in the quality of the response that you just had from Faro because it did some oversight or whatever, look in the little tiny icons at the bottom of our answer or long press if you're on your mobile. And then instead of rerunning the query with the same model, you could ask it to change the model that's going to answer that particular point in the conversation. And that's usually where I'll insert an O1 response in an existing Faro conversation instead of starting with a blank sheet.
Interesting. Okay, I will try that. Andy, I have to go to Angela next, and then Finflexity.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing because I primarily use ChatGPT to analyze IT contracts. And so it's basically legal language, and I have a whole set of prompts for ambiguity and all of these other things. And sometimes it forgets half of the 300-page contract, and so then I just flip it to, just like he was saying, flip it to 1.0 and rerun the query, and it'll give me better answers. So consider that as well. That will really help.
Very good conversation, man. I learned so much in this space. It's crazy. We are past halfway. We're past halfway. We started the space when I started AI Amateurs. I said it's going to be 1 hour. There's no way I'm going to do more than 1 hour, but we're going 2 hours again. And if you want to go even longer, go up to the top of our screens and like on YouTube. If you cross 100 likes, then I'll keep it going. Otherwise, we'll end this in about 50 minutes. Angela, welcome. How are you, Angela? This is like the fourth space we
Thank you,
met.
Yaman. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
I'll be real quick, okay? This is a little bit off topic, okay? But I just want to bring up a conference that is going to go on the 14th to the 18th. I don't know, maybe Robert is going to be in attendance, but it's the GitTex conference that's going on, global collaboration of AI. So I'm very interested in kind of up and coming more of the small caps. So, I mean, I'm more of a stock trader, investor, whatever. So this always interests me and I follow it a lot. So I wanted to share it. I don't know if anyone else finds it interesting. But
There's too many events. I just shared something on my profile from Michelle Fang, I think it is, and she keeps a list of San Francisco events only. There's 80 events this week alone in San Francisco alone.
Yeah, this one's in Dubai. So
yeah, I'm not gonna get to Dubai.
It's the largest global event that you can have. So
yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
They do good shit down in Dubai. I've been there.
Okay. All right, Angela, anything else?
No, thank you.
All right, thanks for coming up. We have a couple of things to talk about, so let's move Finflexity.
Do you want to cover something like AI research that happened this week, the bigger
Yeah, go ahead.
topics?
Yeah.
All right. So, we had a lot of research in healthcare this week. So first of all, researchers at Harvard Medical School, they basically came up with an AI model that figured out medicine for around 17,000 diseases. So utilizing a data set of existing, and drugs, it came up with links between the two data sets, and it was able to find some patients and some diseases on its own that would be solvable with existing treatment. So basically it tried to cross-reference already existing medicine and already existing diseases to try to find out if there is any overlap where it could work. So they came up with 17,000 cures this way. Basically they will now try to test them out or whatever, but that's good news. And other than that, we had actually another research in medical as well. So basically it is a Japanese company, and they came up with a similar approach, but this time they're trying to figure out that how they can find cures for particular diseases by using existing research papers. So they are digging through last 50 years of medical research, and then they are using AI to figure out if a cure for a disease has existed in some paper that a researcher has overlooked. So basically, maybe someone found a cure for a cure for disease A, but they didn't decide to look for the same cure, but for disease B. So they're trying to figure out different cures for different diseases this way. And that's interesting.
Thank you, Finflexity. That's great news. And sometimes I see Rich Beer in here, who's in healthcare and talks about AI too. But he was earlier, but I can't find him right now. So thank you for sharing that. Anybody else on the board who would like to add to that? Lumi, I see you're very excited about this news. Do you have anything to say?
That's the reason why we're making AI. I mean, data sets. So Harvard's data set, everyone's data sets are going to be like gold because obviously AI is going to go through and find various different connections which we just didn't see. I mean, that's phenomenal. The amount of potential that is phenomenal, and that's just the beginning. Like, oh my god.
All right, thank you. Let me check my. How many people on the board or in the audience have listened to Herbert's and Scott's interview of Brad Adcock of Figure AI? Anybody? Nobody? Wow. No one listened to it? All right, well,
I listened to a piece of it, but not the whole thing yet.
yeah. Well, I listened to it before I hopped on here. And yeah, maybe we can discuss this on Tesla Live tomorrow a little bit more when Omar is here too. But my kind of understanding of it, generally speaking, was they're making progress. They're moving at a nice speed. They don't have the manufacturing piece figured out. And they're at a very, very early stage of even thinking about manufacturing this thing. So, like in volume, and by volume I mean thousands of units. So I think in that sense, Tesla Optimus will be able to kind of pull ahead of Figure AI quite a bit. But
not to mention, people know what Tesla brand is and trust it, and would be more likely to buy a Tesla robot, whether it's for their business or for their home, than a robot they hadn't heard of.
Well, I mean, I think Tesla brand has a lot of value for some people, and also has a lot of negative value for some people. But maybe in the future, you're right that globally speaking, maybe Tesla brand will play a role there too. What else? Both Herbert and Scott seemed very impressed by the team members that they met. So I think the team appears to be pretty strong. Brad was, I liked most of the answers he gave. I mean, he seems to be thinking a lot of things very in a first principles way and very logical. I don't quite understand why he gets so upset about being asked about Tesla every single interview. I think it's a little odd. But yeah, I think they're going to be a pretty formidable competitor in the future, but kind of in a similar way that Waymo is today with FSD. And I think in the longer term, FSD will win out against Waymo, and I think that Optimus will win out in the longer term again versus Figure AI. But in the middle, you got to stop interrupting.
Sorry.
Please. But in the short to medium term, I think at least the market and casual observers will see these two companies, Waymo and Figure AI, as neck and neck, and maybe even ahead. Just like the same way that people think of Waymo as ahead today versus FSD. I think there's a difference between how Figure AI is competing against Optimus and how Waymo is competing against. There's a lot of overlap between Figure AI's approach to Optimus, more than I think there is Waymo and FSD overlap. So I think that's an interesting thing that maybe we can discuss tomorrow in Tesla Live. But let's see what this speaker board has to say about all that. Let's first go to Finflexity and then Uzi, and then Robert. Finflexity?
Yeah, so actually there was another development in robotics last week as well.
No, hold
basically,
on. We're focused on Figure AI versus Optimus right now. Uzi?
First of all, no one wants to hear about Optimus or Tesla at all. Someone told me earlier in the space. I'm kidding. Oh my God, Lumi. I do think, for the most part, the closer the tie between NVIDIA and Figure, the more bullish that is in a material way. I've been researching NVIDIA's robotics program more and more, and their training, it does use a decent amount of synthetic data, but they are simulating, I guess, different paths to achieving an action within this thing they call the Omniverse. So the closer a collaboration, if they're able to produce on scale, which I don't think they'll be able to do, but being able to get the brain down is usually the hardest part with this. So NVIDIA might be leveraging Figure as their humanoid sort of producer.
Okay. Finflexity.
actually, I was reading on this that NVIDIA software today for digitally simulating robotics is basically, it's way behind what you would expect to use something and make a functional robot for the real world. So basically, the interaction that NVIDIA software can right now have with the robot or maybe a simulated environment is so limited that you can't actually train an entire robotic system on it.
Okay, thank you, Robert.
I forget the point I was going to make, but the robot versus robot, it's a little off topic because AI amateurs aren't going to have these robots in their home for at least 2-3 years minimum.
Yeah, I mean, some people so Brad kind of mentioned that they are focused more on the homes than Tesla Optimus, I think, but I forget the exact wording that he said, but yeah, that was his timeline to 2 to 3 years, but that's not, Robert, that's not too far away, right? But what do you think
No,
about the approaches of the two? What do you think about what I said about Figure AI versus Optimus and how that relationship compares, how that competition compares to Waymo versus FSD?
I think it's I see your analogy. I think it fits. I'm not bullish on
It fits,
Waymo
but there are
either.
also dissimilarities where I think there's more overlap between Figure AI and Optimus than Waymo and FSD. Do you agree with that too?
Yeah, I think it comes down to understanding from normal everyday people of these companies. They don't know what this figure is. They've never even heard of it yet. Normal people, people in San Francisco, yeah, we're all talking about it, but people in Kansas,
Let me ask you point blank, Robert. What do you think is the probability that Figure AI wins against Optimus? That's part A.
I haven't seen a breakthrough from this company yet. If I did, then I would say, okay, there's a increasing chance. So I'd say 2%.
Okay. And then and the same question for Waymo versus FSD?
Waymo is a little bit different because Waymo is being funded by Google. And yeah, Figure does have $700 million, so they're funded for now. but their customer acquisition cost at Waymo is higher than Tesla. The experience of being in a Waymo is not as good as Tesla's going to be. So I can see how Tesla's going to come in late, maybe after Waymo gets a bunch of cities. There's 300 major cities in America, right? How many of those will Waymo get to before robotaxi starts showing up? A few, but I don't think all 300.
I mean, do you think money
They
is a
have to
limiting
make first.
factor for Figure AI?
It's always a factor. It's always a factor.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't know.
you know, you got to you got to make a manufacturing facility or figure out how to make these things at scale. Let's say they are the one. Let's say they go all the way, and everybody wants a Figure robot in their home or in their business, or 5 in their business and 1 at home. How are you going to make them? How are you going to market them? How are you going to get the people, the normal people, to understand this robot is something they need in their lives, right? That takes a lot of effort. It's a lot more effort than I've seen this
Yeah,
company put into so far.
I disagree.
Okay.
How much money do you think building a factory to build humanoids, let's say $1 million a year, would cost?
If I was only doing $1 million a year, I'd go to China and hire it out. I mean, I know exactly who I'd go see. I'd go see Liam Casey, who
No,
owns their
let's
supply
say
chain.
you're doing vertical integration. You're fully vertically integrated.
You
You're
want to
going
own
to
the
do this
factory?
in-house. You want to own the factory. How much do you think the capex would be?
You got to make 50 different electric motors. You got to print the arms and legs and the feet and the hands, and put some sort of sensors into the fingers and the eyes and a computer and a battery. I mean, Foxconn can do that in the corner of its iPhone facility, right? Here in America, I would say that starts at $1 billion and goes up real fast.
Yeah, I would say about $1 billion. And you're telling me that Figure AI can't raise billions?
No, the K-Scale robot company is like, we're just going to buy off the shelf standardized electric motors. We're not going to build the electric motors ourselves. We're going to build a model inside the head of the robot that can control those standardized motors. Tesla's, taking the Tesla approach. We'll see that on 1010. I don't know. I'll have to talk to my semiconductor people. Like, okay, let's say you really do need to make even 25% of the motors, and then 75% you buy from, whoever's making electric motors. It's still a factory that sounds expensive to me.
Now, we already assumed in this discussion that they're going to do vertically, and that's what he said in the interview too. So I said, assume vertically integrated. I would say $1 billion, $2 billion max for a factory that will produce 1 million units per year. It's not a very high capex type of project. Let's go to Finflexity, who's disagreeing, and then we're going to go to Angela, then Uzi.
There is actually no way I would even assume that you could produce it at a 1 billion capex. In the supply chain of it all, as of what you have seen from previous manufacturing in this particular space. So basically, let's look at Tesla and Rivian. So Rivian, for example, Rivian is really struggling with producing its own electric motors for its electric cars. It is using Bosch motors, which it is importing. But let's assume for robots that you can make your own motors, which I think is highly unlikely in a company that does not have any manufacturing experience. So you would be essentially assembling it in America, and then you would have to outsource everything else. The vertical integration that I think he is thinking of right now, Brett, would be for the factory and maybe the supply chain of it, maybe importing it from China or wherever he is imagining. But for $1 billion or even $2 to $3 billion, you would essentially set up an assembling factory. There is no way that you set up a factory to produce the motors, produce the semiconductors, produce the actuators. No way. That's way too less.
Yeah, if we get into making our own silicon, all bets are off because a fab costs $20 billion.
Yeah, we're not talking about that, guys. Come on, let's be reasonable. We need to frame this discussion in the limits of reasonableness so that we can actually have a fruitful discussion. Nobody's saying Figure AI is going to build a semiconductor fab. Okay, Angela.
Yeah, I don't even know what to say anymore, right? Like you guys are like way more intelligent, but I'm just really impressed. I hate to say it because I'm such, a Tesla bull and I believe in optimist and I can't wait to see what's coming in the next couple of weeks, but Figure AI is really freaking impressive. So I hope that gets addressed pretty straight on. I don't know what you all think, but um
I
that's
agree with you.
thank
I
you.
think that Tesla investors should take Figure AI seriously.
Yep.
This is not a Nikola situation. They have backing from companies like Microsoft, Nvidia, and a bunch of others in that caliber. So, but we're going to go to the other side of the discussion. Uzi has been laughing as we talk about Figure AI. He's been disagreeing. He doesn't think that Figure AI or Brad Adcock is serious competition for Tesla. So let's hear why he's so convinced that Figure AI is a failure already.
Well, first, I wanted to give some credit to Waymo. Reduce it down, having that partnership with Uber will help it scale up, even though there's the question of how much units they can produce. What's going for Figure is that, unlike Robotaxi, they don't really like if they crash a car, you're in trouble. Whereas with the Figure bot, if you mess up once, it doesn't really matter. What I don't like,
You clearly did not listen to the interview.
No, I didn't.
Yeah.
Well,
okay, keep going.
Okay, well, I put in a clip from the Humanoid Hub. I watched like just one part, and it was talking about shipping in parts from overseas, and then the longer term plan is to do that more in house. Um, look, I think Figure has the potential to be a competitor, but at this point, I think Scoble was right. The fundraising is a question, and then the supply chain line and validation is another question. And if they can get that right, all power to them. I just think Tesla is the best manufacturer at scale.
Uzi, if Robert, please. Uzi, raising what amount of money would lead you to say, okay, Figure Out doesn't have a capital raise problem?
Well, do we know what it's valued at right now?
No, it's irrelevant. I'm asking you, showing what amount of cash on their balance sheet would say, okay, they raised enough money.
Look, it's a private company. They're never going to disclose that. So I couldn't answer that, honestly.
Man, you know what I realized? Like when people miss spaces for just 2 weeks, their quality answers dive. It's crazy how fast the quality answers drop. And it doesn't matter who it is, whether it's Uzi or Machine or anyone else. It's amazing how fast people fall behind. That was a shitty answer. Michelle?
We'll see after this space. I have a notebook LM ready of 12 minutes instead of this 1 hour interview. And I'm going to listen to this guy and girl talk about Figure AI. I plucked a few other interviews that he did, not just the Herbert one, and now have this 12-minute thing I'm going to listen after the space.
Okay. So Angela's an investor in companies. She's a Tesla fan, but she's not necessarily all in Tesla kind of investor. She focuses on mostly small caps, and I've heard her talk in other spaces, macro spaces,
No,
micro
I don't
spaces.
focus on small caps.
Okay, go
Don't
ahead.
get me wrong there. Yeah.
Did you earlier ask about small caps for AI?
I mean, right? AI is growing, right? So that's where small caps are more attractive. So I'm, photonics, or there are a lot of tickers I could throw out at you guys if you'd want, but um I'm not a fan of small caps until now because we've got innovation going on. Innovation is This is where we, can be rock stars right here. So the technology, the innovation is growing
Okay.
right now.
I mean,
It
this is
unbelievable parallels.
a little besides the point right now. What I was trying to say is Angela is not convinced that Optimus is going to win against Figure AI. She believes Figure AI is an impressive company. Can anyone on the board convince her that Optimus will be the ultimate winner to volume humanoids around the world?
Yeah, I like that.
Okay.
Bring
Let's
it
go
on.
to, bring it on. Team Flexity and Michelle.
All right, now that we were having the conversation about the factory, I just began looking up some numbers. So let's take a look at the closest, case study we would have for this industry in the US. That would be Agility Robotics. They received $1 billion investment from Amazon after their prototype was ready and they were ready for producing the robots. Let's assume they spent half of that, or maybe 60% of that, 600 million, into the factory that they're opening in Oregon. The six so the 600 million factory has a final production capacity of 10,000 annually. And now Agility Robotics, the robot is rather simple as compared to something like Optimus or Figure. You don't have degree of freedom in the hands. I don't even think you actually have hands with that robot. The structure is rather simple. So we would have to assume that to achieve volume production for a million annually, which would be approximately what 100x that amount that Agility is producing, and a much more complex robot, you would need a much larger investment, at least to the tune of more than 5 to 6 billion. And that's like, at least I'm being very, very liberal with the consideration there. So, it's very unlikely for a startup that does not have manufacturing experience like Figure. Basically, the entire C suite is design and thinking of the prototype. None of them have ever produced something material at scale. So you would have to convince investors by, first of all, either outsourcing your manufacturing to a level where you grow and you can have your own manufacturing, where you will invest like 5 or 6 billion into your own plant.
Okay.
Otherwise, you will have a
Okay.
Rivian in the making.
So, okay. Angela, Team Flexity says you're going to need $5 to $10 billion to bring a humanoid into volume production, defined as 1 million per year. And Figure AI it's not guaranteed that they're going to be able to raise $5 to $10 billion. Angela, are you convinced?
No, yeah. First of all, here's what I heard loud and clear, that it's all in the hands. Okay. We've heard that now for the last 2 years. It's all in the hands. I think we've got the hands pretty much figured out. It might take a little bit of energy, a little bit of lifestyle going into the hands and the cells, but I think we got it figured out. So, no, I'm not a buyer at all right here. I think that we can grow this robot faster than we can compete faster than we can articulate right now, to be honest.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Angela is not convinced. Okay.
Yep.
We're going to take a 30-second break. In this 30 seconds, I want the 100+ people in this X space to go up to the top of your screens, click that YouTube link, and click the like button. Okay. This space, right now, we have 32 likes on YouTube. This space will continue when that number gets up to 100. So we're waiting. All right, at this pace, we're gonna wait until fucking a week. So this didn't work. Michelle, go ahead.
I finished querying O1 with lots of relevant context, and it did gave me a lower estimate and a higher estimate. And I linked the conversation if anyone wants to dive into the reasoning. But the gist of it is that you not only need capital for the machines that builds the machines type of thing, but you need runway, because when you hire all of those people, you need high paying jobs, engineers, and probably even like a very fast paced ramp up would be 3 to 5 years to be a significant player in this emerging market. And you need that much runway of high paying jobs and other like super high costs of floor space and everything you thought about.
Lumi.
Yeah, I wanted to make the point that Figure AI obviously has that 50 million like initial investment from Nvidia. So I mean, one of the biggest costs is the chips, the brain. So if it's offset by not like direct investment, but just various other things that could, I mean, be a strategic advantage, especially the other tech companies which have come in to the play. Not saying that Microsoft, I'm not saying that they should make the operating system because it's most likely going to crash, but it is a strategic advantage, which is not dollar value.
Dude, you guys are wild. I mean, if you think that this company can't raise billions of dollars if they wanted to, especially let's say, for example, we're talking about building a production capacity for 1 million units per year, which obviously isn't going to go from 0 to 1 million. Let's say in the next couple of years, they show they can produce hundreds of them or thousands of them. Are you serious? You don't think they can raise money, billions of dollars to build a factory? And I think the 5 to 10 billion estimate is way too high. I think it's going to be more like a couple billion. So at most, because that's not, I mean, Tesla spends like 500 million to a billion to get to like 5,000 units per year, and humans are like 10 times less complex to produce. So we are not talking more than a couple $1 billion here, and they already raised close to $1 billion. He said in the interview they're going to get the money into their bank account by year end, and Microsoft throws tens of billions of dollars of capex every single year. They have cash out of the wazoo. Just Microsoft alone. Nvidia, same. Jeff Bezos is one of their other investors. I think you like if you think money is the problem here, I feel like you're not focused on the real deal. I'm really surprised that people are really focusing on this. Let's go to Finflexity, Dr. Spirituality, and then Uzi.
Yeah, I actually checked up more on this, and apparently, my figures were wrong. Agility has actually raised $1.6 billion till date, and it is yet to produce its 5,000th robot. So, they're hoping that they'll be able to produce 10,000 by this year. But
Finflexity, just because Agility couldn't do it doesn't mean Figure AI can't do it. Like you would, if you were the kind of like, if a similar conversation would be, look at Rivian. They raised tens of billions of dollars and they couldn't get R1S to profitability, so Tesla can't do it. That's a ridiculous way of thinking about this. Dr. Spirituality.
Doesn't Tesla have a distinct advantage with being in the three-dimensional world through the cars and the SpaceX and the satellites? No one else has that.
Yeah, Tesla's experience, and I think Tesla in when it comes to Optimus will benefit greatly from things like Neuralink as well. That I don't see Brad Adcock talk about anything like that. So good point. Uzi. Well, if he was here, he would say, well, no one has produced a humanoid in volume.
No, but I'm sorry to interrupt, but can we pose that as a question? Why do you not think that he has the capabilities to scale?
Well, I
What
mean,
are
he's like out on X asking, "Do you guys have a paper to teach me manufacturing?" So Uzi is not wrong that he doesn't know, and I don't think Brad would say that he knows either. I mean, if you watch the interview, it's very clear. Like he's very open about the shortcomings of the company, where they need to focus next, etc. He's not trying to like kind of claim that we know how to do this and we're going to do this and we're going to out Elon or whatever, all that BS that the Nikola guy used to do. And but he would say nobody has done it, so Tesla's going to have to figure it out too. Now you can the argument on Uzi's side, let's say, would be, well, Tesla already produces vehicles in volume, so they have that manufacturing expertise. And then on the Figure AI side, you could say something like, well, BMW is a partner and they seem to, I mean, he talks in this interview quite a bit about the BMW partnership, and it looks like they're going to go deeper and deeper. I think something that is missing from this discussion is people need to realize there are a lot of companies who want Tesla to fail. A lot of companies that might come together to make Figure AI successful just to see Tesla fail. Okay. So that's something that I think people should keep in mind.
can I add, Yamin? Right? Sorry, I'm interrupting, but so Figure AI, right, has been very focused on productivity of a whatever project by project. It's not bringing in the emotion. That's where I think Elon is very focused. He's very concerned about bringing in the emotion of AI in the robots. So that's a component that's missing in Figure AI, no matter how impressive it is in, building parts and putting together machinery and being robotic.
Okay,
Elon
Lumi
is,
and then Robert.
Yeah, you
thank
were
you.
focusing on the failure part. I mean, there's probably a lot of space in this market for a lot more competition than we really are making out to be. I mean, the I think Figure's going to be more focused on its main investors are going to be its customers probably in the beginning, and Tesla's going to be more like the Silicon Valley smart people who want to try out this new product and then find out it's really very, very interesting and superior than probably I'd say Figure. So the idea is that there's two different markets, and they're probably not going to make each other fail directly.
Man, I feel like I'm having the same Tesla versus Rivian discussion all over again. There's enough room for both companies. No, that's not. They have different products. That didn't say Rivian, did it? Robert?
There's always room for two, even with Hertz taking a large chunk of the rental car market. There's Avis, there's 8 to 10 different versions after that, right? I was thinking back to the Instagram days. I asked the founders, "How are you guys going to make money?" Because back before they were bought by Facebook, they had no revenues and no sales, and they were faced with some of these questions. They're like, "We don't know. We're going to figure it out." And they figured it out by selling to Mark Zuckerberg, and Mark Zuckerberg had the ad network to hook up to it to make it profitable, and now it has 3 billion users on it, and it's very, very valuable. Same thing here. Is there a way for them to introduce it to the Western world? That's a lot of steps, a lot of partnerships, a lot of money, a lot of effort that hasn't yet been applied. Could it do this? Yes. That's why I'm not willing to jump up and down and go, oh, and Tesla's definitely going to win. It's too early to call the game.
Okay. Let's go to Paul Ryan.
Yeah, how you doing, Yamin? Thank you. I think that competition breeds innovation. So it's really good that there are multiple companies out there, and to the fact that Tesla is making a robot that's possibly going to be capable of being broken down into individual parts, like a person who's a paraplegic or quadriplegic able to walk again, use arms with Neuralink. That's amazing, and other companies being in the space too is helpful. So hopefully they will get their seed money and be able to thrive. And other competitors to Tesla will make Tesla be better, and Tesla will make them be better in turn. So I think this is a really good space for everyone right now, being that this is
This is
in the
exactly what
market.
people used to say about Rivian. Yeah, I'm not interested in this like platitude type of arguments. I really couldn't care less about this BS. I really want to know who's going to win. Okay.
I'm pro Tesla too. You know that.
Dallas.
Yeah, I mean, to answer your question, who's going to win? Tesla's going to win in the long run. I mean, I hate to equate everything back to Apple, but Apple's never the first to do anything, but they're the ones who do it right. And so be it. Let Figure AI go out there and release a product to market and figure out all the kinks of a humanoid home robot, and then Tesla's going to come in and do it right.
Uzi. Ten-minute warning. 10-minute warning. This is a great discussion. I want to keep it going. It is past my bedtime and everything, but please take the moment to literally takes 2 seconds to like the video on YouTube so that we can grow the space. Because if it doesn't turn financially sustainable, I can't just do it endlessly. All right. So it has to come to a point where it's financially sustainable. So take 2 seconds to like the video. Robert, then Lumi.
If you look at what does Tesla have, they have a simulator where they have all the data from all the cars coming in. They can walk down a real looking street with a real looking stoplight, a real looking set of cars rolling around, a real looking set of pedestrians and bicyclists rolling around. They can take their AI into that and teach it a lot of things. The electric sheep companies making lawnmower robots, and they're training their robots in NVIDIA simulator. So Tesla simulators electric sheep NVIDIA so far. So that gives them a leg up. Tesla has the brand that people, even people who hate Tesla, recognizes it's a fun car to drive. They have to start recognizing that it is self-driving, that it's leading the market. They're going to hear about that on 1010, even if they hate Tesla or hate Elon. They're going to have to recognize that. Three, you look at how close is the robot team to the factory? Well, it's not far. Let's say the robot team is in Palo Alto and the factory's in Fremont. That's not far. Figure has to go to Germany to go to the BMW factory and work with the workers on their lines. And are they going to move a lot of AI geniuses over to Germany? I doubt it. The guy who ran design at Harman told me when they moved their design team to China to be right across the street from their factory, they started getting better customer sat numbers, getting better quality, getting better products. They started winning awards. And he said that's because an engineer could come up with an interesting, or a designer could come up with an interesting idea, walk across the street to the factory, talk to the factory owners, can you make this? And they would say, well, and we can make this, but this part needs to be redesigned so that we can make that easier. And all of a sudden you get an iteration cycle in manufacturing that I think is a huge advantage for Tesla, because their robot team is either in Austin, Texas, right next to their Gigafactory, or it's up here in Silicon Valley, 45 minutes away from the Fremont factory. So there's so many advantages to Tesla.
Thank you. Lumi.
Yeah, just a rebuttal on that market analysis. I mean, you should consider it as a spectrum, and the hourly labor cost of the humanoid, because basically Tesla's going to be more expensive and more luxurious, more personable, most likely than a production line factory humanoid robot, which is designed to do multiple tasks in a factory, but not to be personable and various other aspects, more to get that task done.
Where did you get the idea that Figure AI is not going for households eventually?
Oh, I mean, they will do as well, but in the beginning, I would say that their initial investors would probably want their products themselves. So
Yeah, we're talking more like kind of 5 to 10 year outlook here, maybe even beyond that. We're not talking just factory. I mean, this obviously is going to, both products are going to go to households at some point. And like Uzi pointed out, I mean, ChatGPT today is very personable, and ChatGPT is going to be on, or a similar model is going to be on Figure AI. So, yeah. Yeah, I think Robert is right. I think Robert nailed it when he said, Tesla has advantages. I think Tesla can benefit also from Elon's other companies like Neuralink or Starlink, etc. But it's not a done deal. I don't think this is I don't think this race is. It's not going to be close to call anytime soon. Robert.
Another huge advantage Tesla has is the robotaxi network, the transportation as a service. And if you start thinking about transportation in a new way, for instance, I get table pizzas every Wednesday night, right? And they're delivered. They cost $10. A human delivers them 4 blocks from me to my house. Well, soon a robotaxi is going to deliver it. How does it get to your front door? Probably an Optimus kind of thing.
I know, but here's the thing: like Tesla can't, for antitrust purposes, can't say Figure AI's bot isn't going to be able to use robotaxis, right?
You think they're going to allow a figure to be integrated into the Tesla transportation as a service system when you order a cyber cab on your phone? That they're going to allow a figure to come with it to deliver pizza?
But then, if you don't do that, then your Department of Justice is going to be up your butt.
Mm,
You
not
don't think so?
not until long path down the road. If Elon actually took over the entire market, yeah, then he's going to have problems with antitrust. But that's a day in the future, long in the future.
All
Maybe
right, we
15
have
years from now. Yeah.
5-minute warning. 5-minute warning. Right now, we have 51 likes on YouTube. If that gets to 100 in the next 5 minutes, we'll keep the space going. If not, we're gonna go to bed. Okay. Who had their hand up? Uzi.
But just give me a second to like it.
All right. We'll give you a second. 10. I'm counting. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Okay. Let's see what the count is now. Let's see if that makes a difference. 52. There you go, Uzi. 51 to 52. 10 seconds. Doesn't work. People just
that
don't
was
want
me.
people don't want to take the time. They just don't want to take the time to just like literally 2 seconds. They don't care enough, I guess.
The rumor that O1 not preview is coming out tomorrow makes sense if it's October 1. So we'll see, and we'll talk about it next week.
I'm excited about 1010. I think that's going to be a bigger deal than most people are recognizing.
Yeah, my vote is on Tesla to win the massive part of the market as well. They own a lot of the basics from the chips to the talent, I believe, and then that's just less partnerships, just less hands to get their hands on profit, and then Tesla would just scale this better. And what they do, even if they can't come late, like Elon and XAI, just 1 year, and they're top 4. And with the robots, they started before, so they're already ahead.
I can go a few more minutes, sure. Yeah, my wife's coming home with dinner.